Welcome back to Bleav in Softball. I'm your host, Jenna, and this is the 150th episode of the show. We started this podcast about 4.5 years ago, and it has become one of the things that I'm most proud of. And the biggest reason is the community. So I want to say thank you for tuning in and supporting all this time. And however you got here today, whether it was an audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, etc., or watching on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your pods if you haven't yet. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter/X at Bleav in Softball. That's BLEAV. And of course, there's merch. Click the link in our bio on either of those pages or go to shop.bleav.com to purchase 3 different shirts covering our bases. Safer out and catch you soon. All right, let's go through today's batting order. First, we will cover our bases, share some call-outs from the softball world. Then we'll head into today's interview with Amber Fiser. She was that Minnesota pitcher that helped build up the program, and now she's a few years into her pro career trying to make the biggest impact that she can. Excited for you to hear from her. Then we'll end things with the foul tip of the week, where we share tips to help us get better. All right, let's go. Covering our bases. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code Bleav for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. And summer continues here with Rip It Sports. I wore the Ringer cleats as a kid, as you all know, and now I've been wearing the Ringer turfs from Rip It as a broadcaster and a media professional, and it's come full circle, and it's helped me through all the phases. Rip It has all kinds of stuff, from footwear like Ringer to apparel like pants, sliding shorts, etc., gear, helmets, and face masks, accessories like straps for the masks, padding for the masks, belts, all of those types of things, and all the important stuff to play and practice. And they have gear for other sports too, like volleyball and soccer, and attire for any athlete, really. Training tops, shorts, leggings, sports bras, the works. The coolest part by far is their mission, which is to elevate female athletic performance. They get that as women and girls, we deserve gear specifically tailored to our needs, with a quality fit, elite performance, and unique to us. The best news is that Rip It is offering an exclusive 15% discount. Just use the code Jenna15 when you shop at ripit.com. That's JENNA15. Experience the same quality gear that helps so many ladies excel. And we've been lucky to hear the stories of so many ladies and men that have excelled in the softball world. 150 episodes. I have to start there because this milestone, it snuck up on me, to be honest. It's kind of that feeling when you're just grinding and you're just kind of trucking along, staying focused, but then you happen to look up and realize, oh, wow, we've actually come a pretty far way. So I want to thank, of course, Bleav Network for hosting this show and the support behind it. Pretty Easy Podcast for helping us edit and produce the show every week. Every single guest that has ever come on for sharing their stories and their insights. Friends and family, of course, who have supported me not only through this show, but my entire life. I appreciate you. And then all of you for tuning in, for following, for subscribing, and for supporting this show and for supporting softball. Quick highlights, because I couldn't believe it myself when I was looking at these numbers. We have had 115 different guests on this show. And within that 115, this is how it works out. More than 60 All-Americans, 30 plus national champions, nearly 30 Olympians, about 50 national team members from 6 different countries, over 65 professional players, over 50 coaches at all levels from the Olympics and pro to college and travel ball. And also some media members and journalists in there, business and administrative leaders. It goes on and on. But in that group, there have been about 100 players or people who have at least played softball, 100 people. As a former player, it just feels special. And the experience this summer in the summer leagues also felt special, especially with the inaugural season for the Golden Bay Collegiate League that I've worked with this summer, as you know, being now in the books. The Ducktown Quacks are the first ever champions for the California branch of the ACL. I want to say congrats to head coach Taylor Gilmore and the team on making history, but also congrats to Coach Bear of the Orange County Crush for making history competing in this league in its first year. It has been really fun to be on the call for these firsts and just see these athletes have fun while getting better. So a shout out to the larger American Collegiate League as well, especially actually the Lone Star State Collegiate League too, which finished its first year ever as well this summer. This was in Austin, Texas, and I have covered Stanford player Allie Clemens for years. She competed. She's from Texas. She competed in Texas this summer. She was named an All-Star, and she said she fell in love with the game again. And also the recent guest that we had on the show, Grace Uribe, her journey in the GBCL, winning Pitcher of the Year, committing to San Diego State, and just genuinely enjoying being on the field. That right there, that's basically what my why has been to get involved with the ACL. So that is a win. And some wins that are going on right now, too, on the international stage, the World Cup finals. We are right in the middle of it right now in Italy. 8 teams in the opening round, Group A, USA, Canada, Italy, China. Group B, Japan, Australia, the Netherlands, and Puerto Rico. So the super round is down to 4 teams that will compete for medals. From Group A, it's USA, who's undefeated, and Canada, who actually walked off Italy to advance, which was a very exciting game going back and forth. Group B, Japan's undefeated. They walked off the Netherlands, and then the Netherlands only lost to Japan in that opening round. Just a reminder for some context, too, 5 of the 6 teams in the Tokyo Olympics are at the World Cup finals right now. So everybody who medaled, Japan, USA, Canada, plus Australia and Italy. Mexico is the only one who's not there. And Puerto Rico, the Netherlands, and China, they weren't in the Olympics, but they are at the World Cup finals. Pretty cool to see. And the 2 undefeated teams right now at the World Cup, Japan took gold in Tokyo in 2021. We know that. The USA won the World Games in Alabama in 2022. So who will win the World Cup at a neutral site in 2024? Will there be an upset, and will it not be either of them? We will see. And a quick side note, just on the international scene, Stanford leads all colleges with 38 U.S. Olympic athletes in Paris 2024. This does not even include representation for other countries. This is just Team USA. And I had to plug this because if I can't plug softball at the Olympics this year in Paris, then I'm going to at least plug Stanford. But now, in terms of what we're going to do coming up, bring it home with a lot of pro ball. So the Athletes Unlimited Championship season kicks off so soon already. The first draft is July 22nd. Week 1 starts the 26th. And then the 5th and final week ends August 25th. And it's going to be exciting. You know, new grads have signed, like Allie Skaggs from Arizona, Charlize Palacios from UCLA, Caleb Beaver from Alabama, Skylar Wallace from Florida, Claire Davidson from Duke, Valerie Cagle from Clemson, Lexi Kilfoyle from Oklahoma State. So much new blood. And there are also new grads that played in AUX just after the World Series. So that mixed with the veterans, I'm just excited to see how that new blood mixes in. And an update on the WPF too, just the most current standings that were shared by the league. The Texas Smoke at the top. Congrats to Jayla Wright. They're 14-1 on the season. Texas Monarchs 8-7. Coastal Bend Tidal Wave 4-11, and the Hub City Adelitas out of Mexico 4-11 as well. So the 8th and final week of the season ends August 11th. The championship series is supposed to start August 13th. And then when it comes to the Association of Fast Pitch Professionals, the 4 independent teams that are collaborating and competing together, the OKC Spark, Florida Vibe, Chattanooga Steam, New York Rise. The Champion Cup is going to be July 23rd through 27th in Chattanooga as these all compete for a championship. And someone who's going to be competing in all of that with the OKC Spark is today's guest. So let's head into the interview. He is a current pro with the OKC Spark, 2019 All-American and Big Ten Pitcher of the Year, 3-time All-Big Ten player, Minnesota alum, and North Florida pitching coach, Amber Fiser. Amber, thanks. I'm so excited that we're able to connect.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am also excited on a personal note, let alone for many other reasons, to chat with you because I Bleav you played for Jessica Allister and was recruited
Mhm.
by her early on at Minnesota, right?
Yes, I was.
So I was as well at Stanford, but she was an assistant coach. But she was a big part of the recruiting
Okay.
process for like my whole class, a lot of the classes around me, and
Mhm.
she was an assistant when I was a freshman. So um, I always love,
Wow.
yeah, like connecting with other people who know her, like in a similar way,
Mhm.
but also from like a little bit of a different angle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's absolutely awesome. I was devastated when she, left Minnesota, but I understood. Um, but yeah, by far, like still to this day, one of my favorite coaches I've ever had. So she's awesome.
Agreed. Definitely
Mhm.
agree. And actually, you would have played with Sarah Gronewagen then too, right?
Yep,
At the
she was a
time.
senior when I was a freshman. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know her as well, but I know her as the, now on staff at Stanford and then
Mhm.
obviously her time at Minnesota and Team
Yeah.
Canada and all the other things. So
Yeah. Comes full circle. It's kind of crazy.
it does. It does. In the best kind of way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy for her.
Yeah, definitely. Well, but now that you've been actually a pro for several years now, does that feel kind of weird that you're more on the veteran side now than when you first started as rookie?
Yeah, definitely. I'm like technically this is like my fourth season, but I'm going on my only like my third year out of college, so it's kind of weird how they're a little bit different. I kind of just feel like I'm just starting again and having all these rookies and stuff come in, and it's people that were just becoming freshmen or sophomores when I started college. So just seeing, and even all the COVID people, like I think this was the last year of the COVIDs, right? Like, so
Yeah.
just knowing that and how much time has passed since then has been kind of crazy. But yeah, seeing me as a little bit of on the veteran side, I'm like, I don't want to believe it yet. So still going to play as for as long as I can.
Yeah,
But
definitely you'll take the experience, but we'll just
yeah,
pretend like you're not aging. That's how I feel
yes,
anyway.
that's exactly what I would love to do.
Yeah.
Put it to pause on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Oh gosh. Uh, so many of the rookies too for your team in particular with the Spark have come from OU and they're coming off the World Series and you know what that's like to play on that stage too. So getting to bring them in to this pro scene, how has that kind of been from your perspective?
Honestly, it's been a very, very cool experience. I love every single one of them. They're just amazing people and amazing humans. They're great teammates and they're so fun to be around. I think one of the coolest things is like everyone talks about like professional softball is a little bit different, right? Like you don't have a World Series that you're constantly training for. You don't have those type of awards or anything like that that you work. A lot of people work their whole life to get to during their college career and everything. But it's kind of cool just to have them, like be able to be themselves. Not that they couldn't at OU, but like just kind of softball in a different light, like take a step back and kind of, be completely free. And yes, there's nothing that you're still playing for, but you just truly are there to because you love the game of softball. And it's some of them like they look like they're having their best time of their life. It's great to be their teammate and see them enjoy softball so much and just be around a different team because I mean they've been with the same team for the last 4 years. So I mean anyone that gets to go to a new team I think is pretty exciting just to get to know new people, new faces, new connections, new teammates from all over the country. We all can continue to learn things from each other in each program that we've been a part of.
That is the cool part. You're very right.
Hmm.
Because it's like, yeah, they got to stay in Oklahoma City essentially, which is like what
Hmm.
feels like home to them, but it is a new
Right.
experience and you know what that's like too. So
Yeah.
I think it's nice that they have people like you, even though half the team are OU
Hmm.
alums, even if they're not recent alums,
Yeah.
like the other half of the team is also very important, it seems,
Yeah.
to the dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's awesome to have them on the team for sure.
You guys have been doing some cool stuff though in terms of learning from other people, like you said, playing international teams, like doing the
Hmm.
Royal Spark Challenge and playing like
Yeah.
the team from Great Britain. How has that experience been too?
I think it's been a really cool experience. We played Great Britain and we played USA, and so um, personally, like I love that type of challenge. I've never played like international teams like that, and I've always wanted to be in international cups or World Cups, things like that. Like a last dream of mine I have to accomplish is wear the red, white, and blue at least once. Like that's a goal of mine. So just being able to compete against them as a team as a whole, I absolutely love that type of challenge. And I think it was good. Just, it was a fun environment. We had a big crowd. It was cool to see Great Britain come over because I know that OKC went over to London last year. Um, so just being able to like have that connection build between the two teams, I think is something that's really special. And then we had the opportunity to play USA, obviously, before they went to Japan and Italy. And again, I think that's just a great way for all of us, at the top of our talent and top players in the country to continue to challenge each other before they go up on the world stage like that. So it was a really cool experience.
I love to hear that you have that ambition too, to wear the red, white, and blue. That makes
Yeah.
me happy. And with LA 2028 being an option now, at least for softball being in it, right?
Yeah.
How are you looking towards that? I mean, obviously 4 years away, but still.
Yeah. I mean, everyone asked me, and I said, I mean, I would never turn down an opportunity to go play in the Olympics. I mean, it's something that's, not many people in this entire world will do in a lifetime. It's something that, just simply wearing the red, white, and blue is something me and my dad have had talked about since I was a little girl. And obviously that's something I definitely want to do. It's 4 years away, I know, but got to keep this body in shape for as long as I can. So that's just the goal. Like let my arm go around in a circle for as long as I can, basically.
Yeah.
So
but with your coaching part of your career as well during the college season, how does that factor into your training? Because obviously, you're still at the field every day, but you're coaching, but you're trying to get your reps in. How do you balance that?
It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie. Some days, where I'm so exhausted because I've been at the field or at the office for so long, just focusing on my specific team, that if I don't lift, very early in the morning before I come into the office, or if I go into the office early and have to, still have the motivation to work out late at night, even though I'm exhausted, like it's been very hard to balance that. But I'd say like this last, obviously spring and stuff, I made it work pretty well. I would wake up and go work out with one of my friends, because one of my friends is a strength coach. Her name's Caitlin. And so I would go get my lift in and work out with her. And then I'd go in the office, do what I need to, head to practice. Or sometimes we'll have games at night. So that kind of gave me a little bit more time to get my things in. But other than that, like I would throw BP every single day pretty much. So that kind of helped me a little bit. And then twice a week, once season hit, I would throw live to the girls just to, help prep them for the weekend, things like that. So not only is it's like a different mindset because I'm truly throwing to what they need to work on. And I'll go into live sessions and be like, hey, like, what do you want to see more of? Do you need to see change ups? Do you need to see inside pitches, curveballs, rise balls? Like, what do you need help on?
Yeah.
So like, yes, I'm getting my work in personally, but it's a different mindset because like I'm trying to make my players better and I want them to be comfortable and confident going into a weekend. And then once season's over, I can be like, okay, like I need to go throw like an actual bullpen and work on the things that I need to work on to prepare me for the hitters I'm about to face. So there's about 2 to 3 weeks in between that I have time to focus on just myself. So that buffer there kind of helps me a lot. And I came to OKC a week early just to start getting acclimated to my surroundings, and worked with the strength coach for a week. So it was a good adjustment period for me for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, to be able to have friends in nice places also.
Yes,
when you're saying
yes.
your friend, you get to lift, like those are the types of things where you have to really want to do it, right? To be a pro softball player. I feel like everyone I've talked to, that's been a theme, and you make it work. Like if you want to, you will, and you do it. Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I think I've noticed just being on my own is the nutrition part of it. Trying to keep your energy, just because like it's already exhausting enough being a college athlete, but like trying to be a coach and like, or just do it a normal job, 9 to 5 in general. Like it's exhausting as well as you're trying to train. Like we talk about being college athletes, that we are, full time in itself, but like also having another job on top of it, like that you're actually trying to make a living off of, it's just a different type of exhaustion. So make sure you have the right nutrition, make sure you're still getting the right amount of sleep, things like that. Is just like a different level of commitment, basically.
Yeah. It does seem like your experience as a student athlete, at least with the time management piece and like all of those things that we have to learn in college, obviously there are things that could translate to
Oh yeah.
now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very, very beneficial for sure.
As hard as it was, you're like, all right, I can
Yeah.
handle this. Yeah.
Yeah, we can manage it. All the times we went to tutors or night classes or things like that. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
grind.
Well, that's the thing we always see, right? Like people's playing experiences and how they clearly translate. Like you just mentioned some of the ways that you help your players, obviously your pitchers too, but like even your hitters you're trying to work with on your team. How do you think coaching has helped you become an even better player on the other side of it?
Yeah, I think it just like, you know, being a current or former college player, like you understand that your coaches do a lot for you, but you don't know anything about the behind the scenes stuff that they truly do and all the sacrifices and time that they have to make. So just being on that actual side of things, like, it's kind of humbling a little bit, I would say. They don't understand, like they know that there's a lot of times and stuff that we put in outside, but they don't truly understand what it is, and how long the hours can truly get, or, working with administration, things we can and can't do, things we can and can't say, all the NCAA rules, like there's just so much more to it than I ever expected. And I think that being a pitching coach too, like I'm young enough, I relate a lot to my pitchers. And I think that the amount of relationships or connections that I have with them is something that's really special. Like, we have bullpens. So we made a joke where it's like, what's a bullpen without Coach Fies roasting you at least once or something? Like, we can just joke around and just be silly, but also, be serious and stuff and work on the things that we need to. But just being able to be young enough and make the type of connections that I have with them, I think is something that's really helpful. But again, like anything that I tell my pitchers, whether it's my pitchers in general, working at a camp, working in bullpens, you go over the little mechanics and things that you don't maybe typically do as a pro because you've been doing it for so long, but it reminds you of those little things that when you need to, if something's not working, how to break it down and fix it again. So it's
Yeah.
kind of all comes full circle. We teach and we preach all these other mechanics, drills, hitting your spots, things like that. But it kind of puts light in a different perspective and like makes you reflect on yourself. Like, oh, maybe I need to do this. Maybe this is what's going to help me be better. Things like that.
Well, I think the best do that, right? The best always
Mm-hmm.
try to get better. They're always learning. Like nothing's
Mm-hmm.
ever not an opportunity to learn to them. And I knew that I had a feeling, like I'm just getting
Yeah.
to know you obviously, but I had a feeling that that would be you as well. So I knew
Yeah.
that there'd be something that you're thinking about in that regard. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes total sense. Like you're
Yeah.
trying to make the most of every moment.
Right. Absolutely. And it's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you have players come from all over. It's not just, we're at North Florida, but it's not players just from Florida.
Right.
And you have them come, like, we have a few people from Minnesota. So, like, they were fans of mine growing up and just being able to, like, Allison Benning, for one, she came to pitching camps and stuff when I was at Minnesota, and now I'm coaching for her. So it's kind of a cool full circle moment, like I said. But learning from the pitching coaches that she's worked with, or just getting to know, like, okay, maybe this is how I say something and this is what I work on, but she words it differently or she thinks about it a little bit
Mm.
differently. So just being able to continue to learn from other pitchers, whether they're younger than me, older than me, anything, like everyone has different words or verbiage that they use and how they can apply it to their motion or the things that they do daily.
That's the part that impresses me the most about coaches
Mm-hmm.
is, I'm never impressed by a coach who's very cookie cutter, who's like, okay, same thing to everyone. We're just going to say
Right.
the same thing over and over. The ones who do exactly what you're talking about, which is understand like that different people need different things for things to click, even if maybe they're kind of trying to make the same adjustment, but maybe that messaging is different for it to actually land with them. And the fact that you can relate, you're still playing, you're still doing those things. Like to me, I just hope that your players understand how lucky they are, and especially to hit
Oh,
MVP off of
thanks.
you. Like, what?
Yeah.
They're hitting
Yeah.
MVP off you? Like, what? How much better can they be prepared?
Yeah. No, it's a funny joke because my catchers, for one, at North Florida, I mean, I have so much fun with every single one of them, but one of the biggest challenges that I like had for them this year, I'm like, okay, you're pitch calling. Like, and
Mm,
that's one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, or like in travel ball now, they rely so much on just like, okay, what pitch am I throwing next? Like looking into the dugout, like, okay, what pitch am I going to throw next? But they don't understand the purpose of every pitch that they throw.
yeah.
So I challenge my catchers now when they call for me. I'm like, okay, you're calling. I'm going to see how you call a game. I'm going to see the things that you pick up on with hitters or, things like that. And I'll let you know if I agree or else I'm going to shake you. Like, so there's been a few times where right away, like I was shaking a lot and then, or I would throw the pitch, let the outcome happen and be like, do you know why? Or like, why this happened? Or do you think that, what if I was thinking about this pitch? Do you know why this is important? For instance, like, I don't know, let's say I throw a fastball and then a rise ball. And I'll be like, no, if she was on time for my fast in, maybe throw like an off speed out or something like different because she was so on time and she's pulling everything. Like it's just, you got to think about everything else that they don't see and like teach them how to pick up on hitters or what needs to be called in that moment. Because if something were to ever happen to me, I have enough confidence that if they need to call a game, I fully trust what they're going to call. Um, so I think that was fun to just challenge them and work with them a lot this year when it was come to throwing live. Or sometimes they got the nastiest pitches too. Like for instance, like Kirsten Caravaca, she caught a lot of our games, but then Mackenzie Woods would be in the box, and we always made a joke because when she was hitting off me, she would always just see my nastiest pitches, and we would just look at each other and be like, I don't know where that came from, but I'm sorry it was you. It's always you. But she's just like, no, I just watched it go by and it was good. So it was really funny, but I enjoy them a lot. I'm looking forward to obviously working with them again.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, the team part of it too, like for me as somebody who doesn't play anymore, like obviously I cover the sport, but that's the thing I miss the most from college, for example,
Oh
is
yeah.
the team aspect. So you still get that obviously when you're playing pro, but even like throughout the school year, you're still getting kind of that aspect too, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's super fun. I love hearing
Hmm.
these types of things. I also love hearing the fact that the lost art that I think is calling pitches as,
Hmm.
do you
Hmm.
think of it more as like the catcher's calling and the pitcher is just taking in that information, or do you think the catcher is suggesting and the pitcher is the one who's ultimately making the decision? How do you view it?
That's tough. I kind of see both sides of it. So like in college, um, more of like I relied obviously heavily with Coach Ritter, my pitching coach, but we would talk so much about hitters prior. So like the only time I would ever shake her is if I felt like I wasn't going to be able to hit that spot the way I needed to, or like if my
Mm.
pitch wasn't moving how I wanted it to. Um, but now, like since I've been to the pros, I worked a lot with Mary Iacopo, and the last 2 years, and I'm working with Deja Mulipolo this year. So like I have some of the best catchers in the world that I'm throwing to, and I think that they are absolutely amazing. Like they have taught me so much, and it's more of like I look at pitch calling completely different now, just because I remember, after every pitch, I would watch Mary and Deja like look at the hitter, or like when they get in the box, they would look at the hitter and like just evaluate them and try and like see what they're looking for just by their body movements. If they move in the box, things like that. It's like they can hear what they're thinking almost, and it's kind of crazy. So I've just fully put a lot of trust into them, and like because I see how much they pick up on hitters, and I've never been able to do that. So I've learned a lot just from seeing them do that, talking them through pitches, talking them through like, hey, what do you think about this? Or do you think that she was looking at this inside pitch? Like, what if we do this one? So sometimes I'll call time and be like, hey, I think this hitter is like really looking for low in. Why don't we try and do this instead? So they've just been very good at communicating. And especially with Deja this year, like I'm throwing a third speed this year. So I have an off speed and also a change up. And she's been working with me a lot on that and just being able to like sell it well, or, counts that would be good to throw in versus the off speed, things like that. So I don't know. It's hard to say because I really think it just depends on the pitcher and the catcher. So for me personally, like I have a lot of trust in what my catchers are calling in the pros. But we work together at the same time. Like we'll
Yeah.
both see what we're seeing. We'll both be like, or for instance, if she wants to throw something inside to a lefty, she wants like a curveball. I'm like, I don't know. That's a pitch I sometimes fly, and I hit lefties, and I've hit a lot. And I'm sorry if anyone's listening. Um, but maybe I'll do a fastball because I'm not going to fly it as much. So just little things like that. Yeah.
There's a few things that you just mentioned that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to dig in more. But one of them being the team aspect, like, because that's
Mhm.
sort of how I've viewed it. And the way that you're talking about it, it's resonating with me in the sense that it's the pitcher, it's the catcher, and it's whoever's calling the pitches. And in your case, when you're coaching, it's you, right? But the catcher may see something that you don't from the dugout, or the pitcher may see something from their angle that's a little bit different. So then it is more of like a team effort,
Right.
ideally, like
Yes.
if they're able to learn, like you're saying, and know what to look for in things.
Yeah, and that was part of me throwing live with the catchers at UNF this year. It was because I'm like, hey, like obviously I'm teaching them a lot about hitters and what to pick up on and things like that. And, like what's smart, like what pitches are smart to throw in what type of counts or situations, and just really knowing your pitcher, what their strengths and weaknesses are too. Um, so anytime I was pitch calling in the dugout, there's a lot of times where I would do signals like, are they on the plate? Are they off the plate? Or like basically Coach Ritter every inning got me used to coming in and evaluating with her, like what did we see, what did we pick up on, or like what do we need to work on for the next inning. So now I thought that was really like beneficial, like it helped me a lot. So I do that with my pitchers and my catchers at UNF now, just to kind of get feedback and how we want to approach them the next time we go out there on the field, obviously. So with pitch calling, if for instance I can't see it necessarily all the time if a hitter is really on the plate or off the plate, or if they're moving in between the pitch or things like that. So I'll have my catchers signal to me whether they're on or off, and if they think that they're looking for something else that I'm not calling or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The
so
visuals that everyone has, it's like, yeah, let's utilize all of it if we
hmm
can, why
hmm
wouldn't we? Yeah.
yeah,
That
people
was, yeah.
don't focus on visuals enough, I don't think.
Mm. Tell me more about that. I agree with you, but tell me more.
So I didn't realize how much like of a visual pitcher that I was kind of until like I came here this year. I mean, obviously, like I love doing bullpens, where you have obstacles and you see your pitches move and, things like that. But it's more so like I rely so much heavily on where my catcher is set up. For instance, Coach Jay, she's our pitching coach here for OKC. And every time I have a new catcher come in, she's a very visual pitcher. And I'm just like, I never looked at it that way, but I guess like, yeah, I guess I am. So she, for instance, like every time like I go down in my motion, I look down at the ground. So when I come up, I want my spot to be ready, kind of.
Mm.
If they're moving as I'm throwing, to me that freaks me out a little bit because I feel like I have to fly my pitch to where they're going, hopefully. So it's better for me to just like, they're not set up right away, but as I'm coming up, that's when they're getting in their spot, because then I'll be able to drive to that spot right away. And
Yeah.
for height purposes, like that's where I look at their different visual focal points on my catcher. So like if I want something low, maybe I'll stay at their knees. If I want something right at their elbows, I'll be like, my catcher's chest to their shoulders. And if I want something high, I'm thinking my catcher's forehead or above. Like I
Yeah.
really just break it down based on my catcher, and where they're kind of set up. And for instance, if it's like a curveball, let's say, and I'm seeing the plate, but they're set up like their middle of their body is kind of set up river. But if I want like a chase pitch, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna start right in the center of their body, but I want my pitch to finish at their knee.
Yeah.
So little things like that. Like I don't even use the plate much as a visual other than like hitting the corners. I use my catcher and where they're set up to throw to my zone. I'm always moving with the hitter, but also with my catcher. So if the hitter's off the plate and my catcher sets up more inside, like that's going to be my new zone, because the zone always moves with the hitter. If you're
Yeah.
going to have a righty that's off the plate and you're throwing something in the inside, that's going to be middle to them. So like you got to jam them even more. So
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. This is a masterclass in pitching, by the way. This is what this episode has turned into. So thank you for that.
Sorry, I hope I'm not giving away all my secrets.
No. Well,
Just
because
kidding.
no, you're just talking about like the insight to what you're actually trying to pay attention to. And like that can
Yeah,
be different for
yeah,
everybody, but like the basics I feel like are so important, especially for young ones who are listening, whether they're a
yeah.
pitcher or a catcher, right? Or even a hitter, like if you're understanding just like
Like
how
how's a
it
pitcher
works.
throwing to me? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the thing too. Like I'll ask hitters at UNF, like, hey, if I'm throwing this pitch, like what are you expecting next? Like you have got to. So I've kind of tried helping them communicate more with like a pitcher's mentality of like being more educated on what pitch they might get next to prepare themselves. And like another thing, like a count, for instance, that I don't think a lot of hitters pay attention to enough. And, this is like a pitcher's thing, but an 0-2 count, what are you expecting?
Yeah.
Right? Like most of the time, hitters are either getting struck out looking because they're expecting a ball so much, or they're simply just swinging at balls that are nowhere near the zone. So it's kind of people need to be more aware on both sides of that, pitching and hitting. So you can't have someone put a ball in play hard on an 0-2.
Yeah.
But you also, as a hitter, can't be chasing things like way above your head or way outside the zone, things like that.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
The other thing that you mentioned too, you've talked about changing planes, which is great, like where you're looking at with your catcher, but you talked about changing speeds and a third speed. That is so important to me too, because as a broadcaster, I talk about that all the time. I'm like, you have to change planes, you have to change speeds to be elite at the elite level, like at the very basic high level version of that. But you just said it, like, it's not just whatever your fast pitches are and then a changeup. Like you can throw multiple speeds to throw off and keep hitters off balance. So the difference between the off speed and the changeup, from your perspective, how would you explain that to somebody?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't have this new changeup until 2 weeks before this pro season. So I learned it from Allison Benning. Thanks, Benny. One of my pitchers at UNF. She kept giving me like jokes and stuff. She's like, okay, when it's good this year, you have to give me a shout out. I'm like, so there it is.
Check that off list.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, honestly, I never even thought that much about a third speed until Ali Carta, facing her last year. Obviously, I didn't hit off of her, but just seeing her throw, and I'm like, I feel like since I've been in the pros, there's so many more pitches and stuff that I've learned and has helped me make me more successful. Just because I'm like, you look at a hitter and you're like, okay, like, let's see if she can hit this, or like, this is a new pitch, but we'll see what happens. It's more challenging to yourself personally. But I think it just goes to show that, just because you're in college doesn't mean you're so limited until like what comes after. You can continue to learn more pitches, continuing for me to find ways to be more successful. So I thought this year, I'm like, okay, well, why don't I have a third speed? And right now, like, my off speed has been my bread and butter, my changeup pitch throughout college, and all the years of the pros leading up to this season. But it's not the only thing that I have. Like, it spins different. It is a little bit slower. It's just a completely different look than my other one, so it still makes it effective. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've learned from it is, and it could be a day where it's really not working that well, but it still sets up all your other pitches because one, speed difference, or just this different spin that it has on the ball. So I would say my off speed is about 8 to 10 miles an hour different. And that one's probably more 12 to 15 at most. So just being able to not only, I think spin is obviously the biggest thing that makes it look different to a hitter, but obviously it's going to be slower too.
Yeah. No, I love that you're constantly evolving, right? That's like what we talk about. It's great.
Absolutely. And this is like things that I'm gonna be able to go back and be like, oh yeah, I say that thing, so maybe I should do it,
Hey, maybe I am right sometimes.
Right. Got to trust my own instincts.
Yeah, exactly. But you've also had so many different types of professional experiences too. Like you played for the Vipers, like you played in Athletes Unlimited. Obviously you're with the Spark now. You guys are going to play Athletes Unlimited too.
This weekend. Cool. This weekend. Yeah.
Yes. How does that feel? That feels like a full circle moment as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really cool. I know a lot of the rookies are coming in. I know a lot of the AU players and stuff, and a lot of our players are going to be gone too, because either they're getting back from Japan or they're getting the Italy team. So, we're both not going to have everyone, but it's still going to be a fun, challenging. I mean, it's the best players against the best players in the country. So, it's a cool thing. And I don't know if someday, like, we are both going to work together. I know that's kind of everyone's goal, is to find one professional team that everyone can play in. And, it kind of feels like we have 3 different leagues right now, whether it's WPF, our league, and then Athletes Unlimited. So our goal, obviously, professional softball is for players to make enough money that they don't have to have outside jobs. Because like right now I play professional, but I feel like I need 2 other jobs, to like make a living off of. And so it's been very difficult, but I'm hoping at the end of the day, like softball as a whole, they want to find a way to work together to have one specific league and get paid enough that we don't have to rely on other jobs, because it's hard. Like I said, coaching and other jobs, it's very hard to train and get us to where we want to be able to be to perform at the level that we do, by having to put our time into other places as well. Like we want to be able to train year round.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a great step forward. And, I hope we bring out a big crowd, just because like maybe in the future, this is something that our leagues can combine and, continue to grow the game, because at the end of the day, like OKC is where you want a softball team, because it is the best place in the entire country. Like it is for softball. Like it's such a huge place. People dream about coming to our stadium just simply to play in. So it's a really cool moment when people come here and get to experience that, if they didn't get to play in the World Series or didn't get to play in, travel ball tournaments growing up, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, the atmosphere that's there is undeniable. Like I'm sure you guys did the same thing, but in college, it's like what we did when we would come up at the end of like a hard workout or a practice, whatever, it's OKC on 3, right? Because like that's where you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the year we went to the World Series in 2019, it started in the fall. Every email that was sent to us from our SID or the coaches, or every message, we had things on posters, on walls. It says Women's College World Series 2019. Like we had that, and we had so many visuals that were like around us that, we got to a point where we started believing it. We made bracelets for my dad, and him battling cancer that year. And so when we got those bracelets, they surprised us. And on the inside of them, it said Women's College World Series 2019. And we're all just kind of like, okay, like this is just icing on the cake, whatever. And so regionals come around. I mean, obviously we had the selection show, and we, we're number 7 in the country, and we hosted Georgia. And once we walked off on Georgia, it was kind of that moment that we all looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, we can actually do this. Yeah. And so that's when all of those moments and all those visuals, all those, little things that were kind of like, okay, and why is everyone saying this? Like we fully believed it in ourselves in that moment. And so it was a very, very cool and special year that year.
The first time ever for the program, right? Like
yes.
Being first is a big deal. And even seeing Duke do that this past year, for example, like makes me think of years like that 2019 year for you.
I'm representing today, by the way. I have my shirt on.
Yes. I love that. Amazing.
I didn't even mean to do it, but I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like I meant to do it on purpose, but I really didn't. And I'm like, this is fitting.
It's just meant to be, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also, like, having to give you credit for that trip to the World Series. You pitched every single inning in regionals and supers to get there.
Yeah. I didn't care who it felt. That didn't matter. At that point, like, I'm like, this is what we dreamed about. And it's what we worked hard all year. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. Like, your team needs you. You go out there and you do your job. So.
Yeah. When you had that moment, though, at supers and you did it, and like you touched on it a little bit, but what's running through you at that point, when you actually are like, oh my gosh, we're doing this. We actually manifested something we talked about this whole time.
Yeah. So I definitely was more nervous for game 1, just because LSU is a great program, obviously. And, one of our pitchers was from LSU, had just transferred from there. So, it was a big moment for her too, as well. And, I think, it was more of in the moment. I'm like, we're hosting one of the top like SEC teams in the country. We're not expected to win. Like we're, the Cinderella story, the underdog mentality. We're hosting at home for the first time ever, but yet we still feel like the underdogs. And so I think that's something that really drove our team that year. It was just, no matter how high we may be ranked or what people may see in us, we're always going to be viewed as an underdog and play with a chip on our shoulders. And I think that's what made us really successful that year, is because we didn't settle or let anyone roll over us. Like we were going to find a way to win. And, like everyone kept asking me like, hey, you pitched every game of the regionals. Like, how you feeling? I'm like, I don't care how I'm feeling. Like I'm playing in the super regionals. Like it doesn't matter how I'm feeling. I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
At that point, like everyone's body's bothering them and everyone's body's hurting. And, It's kind of like what team's going to be stronger at the end of the day, and healthiest. But it's just, you set aside all those other things because there's something so much bigger in front of you and something that you've worked towards. So when you have that type of motivation and you have that type of support system from people all over the country, University of Minnesota, people, state of Minnesota, things like that, all the people that travel to watch our game and, selling out our entire stadium with just in a few minutes, like that's the people that you're playing for and that's what you're representing. And you're doing it so much more than just simply like how you're feeling. So you put all that stuff aside, and people always ask me, like, I think I threw like my pitch count, my pitch high of the whole entire season, the first game. And, people were like, is Amber going to go back and throw the next day? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't care. Like, that doesn't, to me, I was so like, we're going to the World Series that it does not matter. And my body at the time, honestly, I could not believe how great it felt. But it's kind of crazy because when I started, really being successful that year with my team and everything, it's the weirdest thing ever. And it kind of gives me goosebumps now, but I would like visualize games during my sleep. Like I was sleeping about these games that we were about to play. I would be in the moments and, I'd use that as visualization. And I felt like when I was in those moments on the field, like I was fully prepared because I've already been through it visually. So again, there I am, a visual pitcher. And, a lot of people don't think those things will work, or they just like, oh, I don't know if I believe in that. And I didn't know if I did either. But like, I remember visualizing that game before we're going to the World Series, the last one against LSU, before it even happened. And so I really, truly didn't get nervous until the 7th inning, when we're about to be like, all right, guys. I looked at my infield and I said, toughest 3 outs there is right now. And so, yeah, that was kind of the moment. So it doesn't matter how you're feeling at that point. Like everyone on the team, all teams around the country at that point, their bodies are hurting, but like you're representing so much more than you're just yourself in that moment. So it doesn't matter how your body's feeling, but you go out there and you show up for your teammates and you show up for yourself and everything that you've worked for, and you go out there and give it your best. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah. I love that. The visual thing coming back around.
I know. Learning so much more about myself just talking about it.
That's the thing, right? Learning about yourself throughout this entire process. It's amazing. Like you're like, I didn't know if I really signed up to learn all these things about myself, but it helps certainly. Yeah.
Again, and take my own advice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you talked about representing too, like the state of Minnesota and just the other things that are probably bigger than the individual, right? Or even bigger than just the team at the time. I feel like you guys represented Big Ten softball really well as well. And you being from the Midwest.
Iowa.
Yes. Like representing that Midwest talent in the US, that's a big deal as it's growing more and more. I feel like that was a big part of, I'll give you guys more credit, not call it a Cinderella story, because I think you guys worked really hard to get there and it wasn't overnight.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
But on that journey, I think that was what made it easy to root for you all too.
Absolutely. I remember like coming to the World Series and everyone was just so excited to have us there, just because like we were a new team, new faces, and, getting to know all of them. And some of us got to meet our own idols at that moment. So it was really, really cool and special moment. We were just kind of in awe once we were here. So very special moment for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like Big Ten softball or the Midwest, do you feel like they don't get enough credit sometimes?
Absolutely. I remember growing up and, we'd travel all the time, obviously to Florida, California, playing all the big tournaments that we needed to, just to get like me and my teammates in front of, college coaches and things like that. And it's hard because, obviously in the Midwest, you can't play year round like people in Florida and California and Texas and stuff like can do. But, we kind of use that as a chip on our shoulder. Like we work just as hard. Like we might not be playing in games, but we work our butts off in the off season. Like in the indoors, like we're still hitting every day. We're still pitching every day. We're still working hard, just as hard as they are. So it was kind of more of a way to prove it to ourselves as well. But also like for me, like my drive has always been, remember who you are. It's the one tattoo I have on my body is like, remember who you are. That's a saying I live by. remember who you are, where you came from, all the hard times, and, the family that stuck by you through all the hard moments, and, the people that didn't believe in you and everything like that. But you were going to prove them wrong, but you were also going to prove it to yourself that you are good enough. And so I think that my goal is to always represent those little girls from the Midwest and people that are always, told that their dreams aren't going to come true. Like, if you work hard enough and you believe in it, like, it's going to happen. It's possible. So not many people come from the Midwest and are successful, but at the same time, like, it's like your internal drive and what you want to represent. So I think that there's been a lot of girls over the years that are from the Midwest, and they're amazing players. And so I'm just obviously a huge fan of every single one of them. And it's not more so like, oh, we're better than them or anything like that. It's just simply like, it's possible. Like, I feel like people from a young age in those Midwest states are told, like, the odds of you going somewhere like that are not very high. But it's like, if you surround yourself with the right people and the right support system, like, anything is possible.
Yes. Remember who you are. Simple.
Yep. Remember who you are. I've got it on a lot of different things. So it's a constant reminder for me.
Yeah. Well, probably the hardest question now, which is, who do you feel like you are right now, and who do you want to be, softball and beyond?
That's a hard question. I don't know. Like, I'm really just, ever since, I'm just really, like, grateful to be where I'm at. I think ever since COVID year happened in my super senior year, like, it was not a great experience. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Nothing. Something I never want to really experience again. I mean, no one really wants to. It was a very hard year. I wish I had another year, and I wish I didn't go out the way that things did, and, we didn't end how we wanted it to. But it took a long time for me to, like, really fall in love with the game of softball and be confident in myself again after all of that, just because I was in such an emotional roller coaster. I didn't perform how I wanted to my super senior year just because of everything else going on around me and things like that. I wasn't in a great mental space. And I really haven't talked much about it since my college career. Like, not many people have asked me about it, but that's somewhere I just never want to go back again. And it's every single year in the pros, like, that I've had the opportunity to be around different people, different perspectives. And I think this is the first year that I've been a part of a team. Like, I love the Vipers. I loved AU experience, but just something about this team really, like, I'm fully feeling like myself again. I'm having so much fun. I play free out there. I feel like I was more of the 2019 Amber Fiser than I was the 2021 that was mentally miserable and things like that. Like, I'm going out there and having fun. I'm playing free. I'm having confidence in my teammates. And I think I'm exactly where I want to be right now. And I'm just, like, happy for myself because it's been so long since I felt that way. And I just want to continue to build from here. I mean, like I said, the last dream of mine I've wanted to accomplish since I was a little girl is wearing the red, white, and blue. So being able to represent this country and in different, tournaments, World Cups, like, whatever that may be, it's also proving, again, little girls from the Midwest have that chance to do that. It's such a full circle moment, and it means so much more to me in different ways than that I can even describe here. But it's not over yet. The person I want to be is exactly who I want to be right now, because all those ups and downs, I wouldn't trade it for anything at the end of the day, because it has shaped me into who I am supposed to be. And, I'm here for a reason, and I'm in this mentality. I'm on this team for a reason. Like, God has a plan. So, yeah.
Well, I'm happy for you as well, and not necessarily for any outcomes or anything. Of course, I hope you do well. Like, I want you to have the outcomes, but just to be able to play in that mindset is actually almost the real goal, And so to be back in that space is a really big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can keep talking to you forever, but I won't. I mean, I want to, but I won't.
It's okay. You can ask me more questions if you need to.
I feel like that was a pretty hard one, and you did pretty well. So now
I feel like I don't even know if I answered your question right, but I hope so.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's, like, a concrete answer. Yeah, there's not really a 100% right, 100% wrong answer to that question. It's like how how do you feel? So I
hmm
feel like as long as you answered the way you feel, then you answered correctly.
hmm I think one of the things too that I've had that's been different about this year that might be helping me a lot too is in 19, I had a sports psych that I was talking to just throughout season,
Mm,
and it could be like, I needed it just because of like the things I was going on with and dealing with family wise. It just kind of helped me, have someone from an outside perspective, just, let me talk to them about it, clear my head. And it's not like more that they just helped guided me in a way. Like they helped me obviously find myself and be present in the moment, love myself or my body for the things that it's allowing me to do. And I think that's something that's so important and not talked about enough because, in college and stuff, I still like deal a lot with body image issues. Like, we're constantly in the spotlight and, oh, like people may not understand of, being as a woman, like how many times people pay attention to what your body looks like and if you've gained or lost weight. And, someone could mean the nicest compliment, like, oh my God, Amber, you look like you've lost weight. You look great. But internally, I'm like, they noticed? Like,
right. What does
like,
that mean? Right.
right. And it's not like it's a bad thing, but it's just makes like I'm more aware of it, like, is my body changing? Is this how it should look like? Or, is this what do I look strong? Or people are like, you look strong, but I don't feel strong. Like, what do I need to do to change it? Little things like that. But they help me a lot with that and, being on TV all the time and
Yeah.
loving myself no matter like what I look like. At the end of the day, my body is literally allowing me to do what I love and it's getting me through the season. Like I may not, have the ideal body image or like not everyone's gonna have the same body or perfect body. It's just you gotta, if you love yourself and you understand that your body is at the end of the day allowing you to do everything that you want to do, like there's nothing better than that. And so that's kind of my mindset I've been like this year is I've been so hard on myself because I've lost a lot of weight since college, but I'm trying to build not even a lot of weight, but I'm like trying to build muscle back, I should say, because I haven't been in the weight room as consistent.
Mm,
But I'm still like working my butt off and like I'm where I need to be at the end of the day. Like the everyday workouts and stuff might look a little bit differently, but am I still going out there and pitching my butt off? Absolutely. Am I still being successful? Absolutely. Just because it looks different doesn't mean, you're not doing the right things. It's just time changes, your body changes, and, it's just being able to work with that and understanding what you need to be successful. And I've been talking a lot with Spark has provided us with a sports psych and, I've talked to her probably about a few weeks before season started and I still meet with her every other week. And I think that's honestly what's been helping me a lot mentally throughout this whole entire season and help get me into the headspace that I need to be. And it's more so of like, did I necessarily think I needed it? No. But now that I'm talking to that person, that I'm uncovering stuff about myself that I never saw as in that perspective or
yeah.
things like that. So it's helping me in so many more ways than I ever realized.
We said it right. Like learning about
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. It's a
Yes.
journey to say the
And it's like
least.
people get scared, like you're going to talk to somebody, like it's not a bad thing.
It's not.
And it's
Yeah.
someone that is completely outside of your life and helping you from a different perspective and maybe uncovering things that you never realized about yourself or how it's going to help you navigate things in your life. It's something that's so special and no one should be ashamed about it. Like, I feel like guys are even to this day are like, oh my God, that guy's supposed to see his therapist. Like, is he okay? Like, that's just so wrong. Like, if he's going
Yeah.
to see a therapist, he's taking care of himself. And I am all the respect in the world to him. Like, he's doing what he needs to do to be the man that he wants to be. Like,
Agree.
and same with women. Like, they're getting in the headspace that they want to be confident in themselves because women are torn down all the time. So, yeah, that's
No,
my
I
little spiel about that.
totally agree with you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
actually more impressed when people, like, my reaction is if they're, because
Yes.
I have before too, right? Like,
Right.
I've talked to people before, and it definitely helps. I'm a believer in it. I think
Yeah,
everybody should do it, to
absolutely.
be honest. If it works for
Yeah.
them, I wouldn't force it on everybody, but
Mhm.
I'm more like, oh, that's great that they've even like thought about it that much and are that committed to themselves to want to go
Mhm.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of people are in denial. I was in denial about it. I'm like, I don't need somebody to talk to. Like, I'm fine. Or I'm like, I'm embarrassed to go. Like, once you get over that and then you go, it's just like, at the end of the day, if you have a chance to like help yourself and obviously become a person that you want to be, like, why not even try?
Yeah.
You may find out that you love it and you're in the best place that you've ever been. So I highly
Yeah.
recommend it to anyone.
Yeah. It's almost like get over yourself so that you can get back to yourself,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So,
No, 100%. I totally,
mhm,
totally agree with that.
mhm.
But I will end with you now, like I promised. I know,
Okay. Yes.
I did
Yes.
promise. So
Yes.
I do a little game with everybody who comes on the show. It's just called Safer Out.
Hmm.
And basically I'll bring something up. If you like it, you agree with it, you call it safe. If not,
Hmm.
then you call it out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm excited.
First, yeah, get excited now. The first one is intentional walks. Safer out.
Mm. Selfishly, I'm going to say out because
Okay.
for instance, this last week, we were going to talk about intentionally walking somebody, and I'm like, no, she hasn't done good off of me. I have confidence in myself. Like, selfishly, no. Um, but I do think there are instances, yes, where it is beneficial. But like just me being in the pitcher mentality that I got, I'm like, no, I'm gonna find a way to get him out. So
Okay, I
I think
had a
it depends on the
feeling.
situation, but yes.
Totally, totally. But I had a feeling because I was like, she sounds like a competitor,
Yeah.
and sometimes not that you're like not competing, it's still part of a strategy and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're intentionally walking someone, you're like deciding not to compete directly in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's her style. So I
Well,
had
and
to ask.
also too, like a lot of pitchers, it's hard to intentionally walk people. Like I wish it could be like baseball, where it's just like just put them on first,
Yeah, right.
save all those
Yeah.
pitches, and wild pitches can happen, and that's where it gets more nerve wracking than anything.
Yeah, I remember
So.
doing that once. I think it was in travel ball when I was pitching, and I accidentally, it was not on
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to, like in theory, I was trying to actually walk them, but it was right over the plate. They swung. It
Well,
was not
just
good.
trying to tell a pitcher to slow down your motion just to throw an easy ball is so much harder than people think.
Yeah,
So
it's
much harder. It's like,
counterintuitive.
don't throw it down the middle. What are you going to do? Throw it
Yeah,
down the middle.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that was the first one. Second one
Okay.
is the conference realignment. Safer out.
Mm, that's a tough one.
I know.
I would say out based not OU and Texas going to SEC. Like I think that's honestly a great one. I think it's going to continue to make the SEC a very strong conference. Obviously, one of the best in the country. I say out for the purpose of USC, UCLA being a part of the Big Ten.
Mm,
I know there's other ones too, but like I feel for those girls and those coaches so much because I don't know how they're going to manage school and traveling and all the time differences. Like if UCLA ever has to go to Rutgers or Maryland, I wish them nothing but the best because
yeah.
one, the flight there, the time difference, the flight back, like I cannot imagine how hard that's going to be. And the Big Ten, unless they change it, they have specific rules on how many times people can miss days of school. So
Right.
they're going to have to adjust all of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going
Well,
to
yeah.
become a little bit, I feel like it's going to have to become a little bit more like the SEC of where they can have a lot of like midweeks that they can like miss in a way.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, with those type of time zone changes, like in the amount of like the distance and flights, like that's going to be a lot.
yeah. Well, I was curious to your thoughts, like because if you were still in the Big Ten, like if you were still in college right now,
I
and
would
you
say
knew,
out in a heartbeat if I was
yeah.
in that conference. Like
So I was gonna say you'd have to go to
OU
UCLA.
and Texas makes sense to me, but the other ones like I feel for them. I really do.
Yeah, geography's tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, that was the second one. Last one is bat flips. Safer out.
Surprisingly, I would say safe, but don't expect to like not get hit afterward. Like
Yeah.
I've never done it. I think Sam in the pros has bat flipped off me once, but her and I are such good like friends. I'm like, whatever. But a
Yeah.
lot of times, like I don't even notice them because a lot of times I'm either just not looking at the ball because it's clearly over the fence, it's hit well enough, or I'm just watching it go, and so I don't see it
Yeah.
until probably afterward, and it's like blowing up, and I'm just like, whatever. You got
Yeah.
lucky, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's more of a I think it's a great celebration to, pick up your team and in those moments, like you're proud of yourself, but there's a respectful way to do it and a disrespectful way, and just make sure it stays respectful, because if it's disrespectful, like I said, people are probably going to hate you next at bat. I'm not one of them. I didn't do that in college, I promise, but I've heard people talk about it. So.
Oh yeah, you're not the only one to say that, even just on this show.
Yeah.
The first person I think to say that was probably the fifth person I ever interviewed, which was Danielle Laurie. Not a surprise, right? Where she's like, "Yeah, expect one in the ribs," just casually, and I was fair. All right, yeah.
Yep. if you do it disrespectfully, it's a different story.
Yeah.
So
you're right. There's ways to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Amber. This was really fun. I hope you had fun, because that is the point.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so glad we were able to do this. I'm wishing you the best of luck too. Obviously cheering you on the rest of this season, this summer, but then just in life and North Florida this coming year as well.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
I'm just thrilled to have Amber on. I got to hear her story, but then we all got a pitching masterclass all in one too. Just a pretty cool way to commemorate our 150th episode. With that, let's transition to the foul tip of the week. This week's foul tip is about remembering who you are. Yes, I'm basically just reinforcing what Amber brought up because I think it's worth it. This concept comes up all the time when talking with guests. Players and coaches especially know that you only find success being yourself. So logically, remembering and maybe sometimes reminding yourself who you are is going to help you do that. And I just like what it implies too. To remember who you are implies that you're enough. You bring value. You are worth remembering as you are. Maybe the tricky part is when we might feel like we're still trying to figure out who we are. How do we remember it if we're not sure what it is? But I've found that just thinking about it can help. Ask yourself, what matters to me? What gives me the most confidence? What brings me peace or joy? What are my standards? So many things you can ask yourself to figure that out. And then even if you evolve, which we all do, and hopefully we want to evolve, you can remember who you are through that process. So to me, it makes sense why Amber said she has this phrase written in a bunch of different places. So that's it. Remember who you are. That's the foul tip of the week. You've been listening to Bleav in Softball, part of Bleav Network and presented by BetOnline. The show is available anywhere you get your podcasts, wherever you listen, including Bleav.com and YouTube too. Subscribe to the show, rate the show, and if you liked it, write a review for it. Follow us on Twitter/X and Instagram at Bleav in Softball. That's BLEAV. You can reach out to me personally on Twitter at Jenna Becerra01 and Instagram at Jenna Becerra as well. As always, thank you for tuning in for 150 episodes. Can't believe it. Thank you so much, and catch you soon.